we are being attacked by a DDoS attack. We are not the only ones being attacked by this DDoS attack. There are multiple other servers. It seems to be, as far as we can tell, the same person or persons behind it with everything else. So that's just something to keep in mind. We are mitigating against it as best as we can. But the attackers have been going at it for a few days. Before that, they have been targeting other servers for a longer continuous time. So if we know when this is gonna end or if it's going to end, we don't know yet. But it's just something to keep in mind if the server does shut off randomly, or stops responding or lags out in the middle of combat, etc. So that is the first thing. We're taking care of it as we can. And also another thing to just keep in mind, players can at times not be able to connect, because as we update firewall rules, we may have false positives that will deny a player request to connect to the server. So just keep that in mind. So if you're unable to connect to the server at all, and it's not per se being actively DDoSed, you should ping one of the system admins that are in online or available at the time in the staff help channel about it. So that is the first thing related to the DDoS. Second thing is, we have officially moved over to GitHub entirely. The GitLab is archived, and with that comes a lot of other changes. There are new, more refined contributor guidelines to a lot of things. The second thing is that we have a new continuous integration suite of tooling for maps and icon and sprites particularly, which means that once you go onto a push request or a pull request rather, you can automatically see during the CI the diff icon render and the diff map render, and you can see which parts of the map has been touched, what's added, what's new, the difference between them, and the same thing for sprite files. It makes it very easy to see what the person has added in a pull request. Is there something there?
Just on the kind of disconnecting thing, we're being a bit more lenient on the kind of enforcing disconnects. You won't get instantly job banned from a major role if you kind of crash from the DDoS or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good on that front.
Yeah, to continue on there, as per usual, we do have some changes to how contributions are handled now. We have automatic stay bot. It will close the pull request if it has not been reviewed or deemed active for a certain amount of time. To follow that up with something, devs try and review most of what goes through, but there's something to be important to mention here. If a pull request is not necessarily wanted by the development team or by people themselves except the creator of the pull request, then most likely it will not be reviewed and it will be automatically closed. So that's something to keep in mind. It's the contributors at the contributors notice, in the pull request description, why it's good for the game to convince us that are reviewing it as to why we should allow the change to go through and actually take time to review it, because we have limited time and we have limited people that are able to review things. That's something to keep in mind. All right. I think that is it directly. I can think of immediately, Frozen.
Yeah. Anything on the kind of, on the less kind of big picture kind of changes to the GitHub, but more kind of development pipeline if you've got coming on the big?
Oh yeah, hold on, I can actually follow up because I remember something. Regarding lag, besides the DDoS, we did move on to a different server after some maintenance. Something to keep in mind, where we got taken down to a slower server but a newer generation server. So we gained some and we lost some. That might have affected how the game performs at high pops. Something to keep in mind if you're complaining about lag. For the development pipeline, there's some balance stuff. We are working or looking into overhauling how shields particularly work in the game, as well as just adding straight up more quality of life features, working on improving the code and catching bugs from the transition from GitLab to GitHub. Because as we change to the Linux server, the live server and how we operate it with Docker has involved some bugs, unfortunately, that we are still trying to recover from, and this has been delayed due to the DDoS attack that has taken up a lot of time. Something there. We're looking into the balance as usual, guns, metrics, etc. We have some more dev-specific things that the developers that are here can speak about when they feel for it. I will not speak for them.
Yeah, I was going to say then, do we want to, I guess, throw to, I know Monkey and Stan are already in the kind of Townhall
Yeah.
voicey bit, but you guys wanted to chuck in with anything you guys have been working on?
Sure. Monkey, go ahead.
For the last 2 weeks, I've been working overtime at work and doing accounting close for the month of April. I did some minor hat tweaks where I fixed up a whole bunch of inconsistent sprites. I respreaded all the Soto flavors, but haven't put them in.
Yeah.
And I'm working with a couple of coders in Nanu, kicking around the idea of adding in synthetic search and rescue dogs. But we're still in the early phases of that.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, robot dogs? Holy fuck.
Pretty much.
But
All
when
right.
tank book.
When tank.
I had a few things I was working on recently. If you played last weekend, you'll have noticed the static comms test. I'm still developing that and deciding on map locations and further interactions for the static comms towers. So if you have any feedback to give or any ideas, please leave it on the GitHub PR or in the appropriate thread in the development channel. I'm open to listening. We'll probably test merge it again a few times before it gets fully merged in. As Nanu mentioned before as well, also it might not get fully merged in. As Nanu mentioned before, a design document detailing the removal of shields from the game and their Xeno shields from the game, and their replacement with a more diverse set of buff abilities has been merged into the design document repo, which means that work can basically start on that right now, since it's been approved by developer balance, etc. So expect that to come in the next month or so. And anybody can make PRs which carry out part of that design document. It doesn't all need to go in the same PR made at once. Alright.
Yeah, update to that, as Dana spoke about just recently now. Design docs is a thing now. If you do have what you consider a great idea that you can properly define out, we have a design doc repo where you can input your own design, so to speak, and development team, etc., can then look at it. And potentially, if it's well written and it's properly set up, etc., they can approve it. It will then be merged to the design doc repo, and then anybody who then later comes around can then look at it and go like, hey, I also like this idea, and I know I have the ability to code it. They can then go ahead and do that and code it in as per the design documents, says, and the maintainers will help guide them along to make sure that they stay within the design doc.
Yeah.
With that, of course, the Trello has been kind of like outdated a bit, so we're probably moving more over to the design documents approach because it's easy to write up things there.
It's a good way to kind of actually focus development as well, because it's like there's a lot of complaints that I think that people are like, I can't really get X or Y done into the game, but if you write it out and it's well thought out and there's effort put into the design document, it's a lot easier to work on from a development standpoint.
Yep. Mind you, there's also another thing. Design docs that aren't necessarily added in does not always guarantee its implementation, because let's say the design document was approved half a year ago. A lot of things can change in that time frame, right? So the longer it takes, it might become, so to speak, outdated to the current game state. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But yeah, that is directly it. So Frozen.
Can I answer one question quickly about static comms someone had?
Sure.
Okay.
Alright, so Rob Warwicker asks, why don't you make static comms random so sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't, which will add variation for CIC to deal with? Basically, it won't be compatible with how CADEs are being worked with right now, because if we have the current style of comms with the more powerful CADEs that are in the game right now, as you've probably been seeing lately, it's a lot harder to attack the FOB. Marines have a lot easier time defending. So basically, those CADE buffs and those Queen building nerfs were designed with static comms in mind. And if we keep static comms and we keep portable comms where you can put it in the FOB, there will be a lot of balance things to consider, and it could end up very unbalanced on our end, depending on if it randomly spawns static comms or if it spawns temporary comms. Portable comms. I'm thinking up ideas to make it more balanced on low populations, such as having a portable comms unit that turns off when enough Marines wake up. But that's pretty much still on the drawing board, and it needs testing and test merges, basically.
There we go.
Thanks, Dan. I guess, Nanu, we can start going through questions then and scrolling through, I guess.
Sure. I don't know how I feel about like a message that contains multiple questions. I might just pick out a couple from those in the case.
Yeah, go for it.
I need to just find your message real quick, because I need to see where we're going from. Here we go. Wiki changelog on the site. Something with GitHub integration. That's why it's nothing. A new fishing map coming along. I can't really speak for that, because that is the map that Tryline is working on.
Try last night. He said that there's been no update to the actual fishing update, which is the last thing holding the map back. Is that he didn't want to release it without the fishing update, and the fishing update right now needs 1 million sprites and different stuff that you could cut out from the fish, and it's just a lot of busy work that he hasn't had time to do. He's in the middle of finals.
Yeah.
And aside from that, I think he said he got the last of the map pickups finished.
Mm.
So it's a lot of hurry up and wait right now. But the map is playable, but per community vote, the majority of people said that they didn't want it to release without the fishing update. So that's what he went with.
And there you
go. Gives times to finish the boat.
True for the boat.
Yeah, and on the topic of map updates, mine hasn't had any progress either. I've been busy with work.
Yep. It's finals, stuff like that is happening for a lot of people, so. But yeah, there's the potentially Monkeys map coming soon, and tryouts, and I know there's at least a couple contributors that are also working on their own maps, so potentially we might be seeing them into test merge soon. What is Scout spec supposed to be? An infiltrator, fire support specialist, information relay, or something else? Currently, Scout just has the option to go for a lot of the different things. You can kind of choose. You can do infiltration, to a certain degree, and he can also do, the fire support specialist, because he has better lacing speed, and he can help relay information. But I also seen him be used a lot to hunt backliners, to take back, corpses that are left behind the enemy line, so to speak, and recover that way. So he plays in a lot of different ways, and honestly, I think all of it is really cool. I like to see the players, play around with the role and try different things. Is the shotgun juggling nerf meant to push CM in a new direction. What is the direction and idea are you aim? Okay. What is the direction and idea you are aiming for, and what other changes might you add to achieve that? All right, so just no, I need to be a bit careful with how I word myself because there's no guarantees.
You will be taken out of context.
Yeah, because it can be taken very much out of context, etc. So there's an pull request made, which handles the idea of adding basically a gunfire delay, so you can't quickly swap between different guns rapidly to fire them off and break the rate of fire speed, so to speak. And because in the past, with how shotgunning has been deemed, it's been deemed okay and almost as a feature to some extent by the development team, because it has required a lot of skill to pull off, and it's been kind of limited, so to speak, in the amount of people who do it. However, lately, scripts has been gone the way around in the player base, etc., and has made such things very easy to pull off, where it's no longer actually a set of skills doing it, but it's somebody who's just holding down a single hotkey to roll through the ability to do it. So that is why it's come up more recently. The second thing is it gives a lot of power to a singular marine, which personally, I'm not sure entirely how I feel about just yet. So that's also another thing. That's why I want everybody, that's listening there, to give their opinions, if they have not done it yet, on the GitHub pull request itself. It's on the GitHub, find it there, look at it, read through the comments, and give your opinions on it. Because that's the primary spot I'm going to be looking for feedback on it. It will also be tested extensively, so just keep that in mind. Now, if it's meant to push CM in a new direction, we have a multitude of plan/ban changes that might come if this makes into the game to be added onto it to help balance out the field, to see how this basically, if it's added or if it's not added, how we might go from there to balance out the game further. That's all I want to really say on it for now, because it's not been just decided on just yet. Can we make neon hair illegal? This is only
Yes.
1/8 of a joke. Okay, so some people want to restrict hair colors within a certain set of range, aka more natural hair colors. Others not so much. Personally, I'm a bit indifferent. I've been kind of allowed it until now. They may perhaps look into it.
You heard it, it's allowed until now.
I know that Monk has been playing around with the idea of making it so if you want to have basically a neon hair color, you use character points, to load out points, right? To buy the hair coloring and then you spawn with it, and then you go dye your hair. So that is a potential change, not guaranteed it is that.
Hey, there you go. We've got consent. All of the character creation points
potentially, okay. What exactly are the devs pushing for as of now? Because I've only seen minor changes to the game and are starting to zero lack on the gameplay loop. Absolutely not saying that I'm bored of it yet. CM is low and CM is live. So basically, we moved from GitLab, to GitHub. That was a very major change. That was a lot of work, and now we're also being deals and stuff like that. So, and then besides that, you have finals for developers that are still in school and stuff like that. They have to take care of that, and then you have the summer break holiday coming up. So that's why development has slowed down for the past couple of months and these few weeks that we're now moving into. It's probably going to speed up again as we enter July, June more. Extras in case. Let's read through this real quickly. for medical, I'm gonna like answer this one and all now. For medical stuff, shipside medics, doctors, surgery, and stuff like that, the developers themselves, like development itself, has not planned anything around that currently, because we do know that there are a couple contributors that has been working extensively on a new feature set and an entire rework on surgery and medical stuff. So it's kind of being left at their hands for now. We're just kind of like looking along as they're working on it. But that might, make it into the game eventually. But this is a major rework and it's going to take time. Will there be any way to track new ideas for the game that are suggested that ties into design docs? If you have a great idea, you want to add it in, rework, design, etc. Make a proper design document for it. PR it onto the the Git repo. That's for design docs specifically. I can link it after this one is over, and we'll look through it there. Any plans to try to increase the number of developers to accelerate development speed? Yeah, of course.
We haven't had any applications.
Yeah, we haven't had any applications. Besides that, not everybody's fit for a developer. You do have to be a rule-abiding citizen to be on the staff team, if that makes sense.
Also, everyone can contribute by making PRs, and everyone can assist in reviewing. Like, if you want, you as a contributor can help somebody with making their PR or looking over their code to spot bugs in it. Like, you can do that without being in the dev team. But a dev still will need to be the final reviewer of your PR.
Yep. So to get back on that, we're also looking for more developers to join the team. That will be, the fun part. And if you are unsure of if you could make it onto the development team, think of it like this. Are you able to review another person's code, map, or sprite to the ability of I can quality assure this to make it into the game? Then yes, you might be a fit for a development
Can
team.
you build a house in Terraria? There you go. You can use strong DMM.
Almost there.
We need mappers.
So mapping is, I would say, quite easy to pick up. As at least to make smaller fixes, changes like that. If you're wondering to start at mapping, I recommend looking at nightmare inserts. They are relatively simple to learn and they cover all the basics, and you will actually see them potentially in game as well. So that's a quick way to go about it. Spriting, bit harder, I would say. Same with coding. It's something that you learn across time, and you will need to be review or sell features yourself properly. Something to keep in mind is how CM does its shading and stuff like that, because we do have a specific art style we're following. All right. Any comments to that, Stan Monkey?
If you need help with coding or mapping or spriting, don't be afraid to ask for help in Coder Channel, Spriter Channel, Mapper Channel, and everyone there is really willing to help. And if you need a hand, just pop down there.
The SS13 Spriter server, or the Spriter Core's a good place also for resources.
There's also the Coder Bus.
Yep.
Although they might not be able to answer specific questions about CM's code because CM is a bit old in some aspects, but anything more general with Beyond or Space Station 13, Coder Bus can always help you.
Yeah. Just general code quality, they can also help you with, how you write your procs, etc.
And if you want to get into coding in Beyond and you haven't done it before, there's the official reference, and there's also a good but slightly unfinished guide called DM by Example. I can link it somewhere. It's pretty good if you want to start out.
Yeah. I will also say this, as much as we we generally shit on Beyond as a game engine, etc. It's a very easy engine or like tooling, whatever you want to call it, to get into. Like to do simple things in it is relatively easy. It's more like when you try to do very advanced backend stuff, in the engine's limitation starts to show itself. So for like the average contributor, Beyond is more than fine enough. All right.
All my homies love Beyond.
Hell yeah. Rat, what happened to them? Will we see them return? The R480, aka the Rat, basically, it's in the code. Admin spawn is coming to ERT specifically, and it might be added as a marine weapon, but it's going to get a full-on reskin, so to speak.
Yeah, I added it to CLF. Might give it to survivors, depending on what like our collective opinion is about that. Might give it to some more ERTs, but the code work for the marine version still needs to be done.
Yep. Let's continue down. RTOs. RTOs were kind of left in the. I don't know what they call it. It's just been left in this. Try and find the correct
Limbo?
English word here. Yeah, limbo. Thank you. After the removal of tech webs, we haven't entirely decided yet on what to do with RTOs. There has been some ideas floating around, but currently they are like second in command to the squad leader. That's basically what they are as per now. So they're there to assist the squad leader. We will hopefully expand on the RTO role in the future more.
Radio boy.
Yep. Return of the veteran kit or something of the sorts. Weapons for the Marines seem kind of the same grind. We've seen few weapons. Well, there's two ways to look at this. Some people say we have too many weapons. Some people say we have too few weapons.
Many weapons.
There is also the weapon balance. Everybody can easily make a weapon, but does it fit CM? That's one for a starter. The second thing is it just another weapon, but it works differently, or is it another weapon? It's slightly better, it's worse, etc. We try to make the Marine mainline weapons act directly different. Some might be having a higher burst, some might have a lower burst, some might play entirely different, better close up close, better at range, etc. Attachments, they give their direct buffs or debuffs onto the weapons as we go. So that's something just to keep in mind on that. I do know that, to follow up with the Rat, might be making a return in a different skin, so to speak, for the Marines.
Yeah.
More jobs for staff officers. I do believe I saw a contributor at least work on the tooling staff officer use to help them out a lot more when it comes to directly jobs. There's kind of like not too much they can currently do. They are basically the communications people. They are there to help out, to assist the captain or XO in the daily matters.
I played
think I
around
saw
with it
some.
recently.
Yep.
I think
It's not as easy as it's made out to be.
Yeah, it's you're there to assist the CIC generally. Like you're the middle ground. You decide what goes to the XO, like what you need his opinion on, and other stuff like what can you help out with. Can you? Oh, a Marine died and he wasn't able to call out for help in this location. Notify your squad leader and your squad mates. So maybe the plan side ones can go out and deal with it. You need a medic in Nexus. You're there to help organize and move the Marine force where they're needed.
Load the OB.
Yeah, I mean you don't have to do that. I don't think even SO can, but you also fire the court, so you're kind of responsible a bit there as well.
Mhm.
Try not to hit the FOB too much, as one will say.
Yeah. I think I saw someone working on those map text things that pop up on your screen for when SOs set orders or send a message to a squad, but that's a contributor, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looked really cool though, so I'll give him that. For tech trees, DEFCON, etc., I do know there's at least one contributor, if not two different contributors, working on DEFCON. and bringing back it in the limited style that was approved on the Trello board. So we might potentially see that in both either testing or live within a few months. That will be cool. That will come with the old IO role as well. Long speed tank returning. I'll be honest, probably not. It
Save it for
has.
HVH.
Yeah, maybe in like specific HVH, etc. events, but it's very hard to balance, and the game starts heavily revolving around the tank as well, which makes it a major issue to balance out and deal with. That is the honest truth to it, unfortunately. Also, it's kind of hard to be handle in a game where you can see 7x7 tiles on your screen. It's maybe if CM was like you had a lot larger vision, then maybe the tank will be better. But otherwise, not really in its current state. Let's continue down. Engineering update. I will say you will have to ask Tomper. Stan, do you maybe know anything about it?
The breaching charge was being tested. A bit of work still needs to be done on it to make it fit into the game balance-wise. There are some other things that have been floating around engineer-wise, but there's not been really any concerted progress on them. Contributors or devs need to start coding the sprites and stuff, and basically figuring out what places these engineering items are going to have in the game. So it needs work.
Yep. And potentially also design doc, so we'll see. Cats update. Well, I don't know if people have noticed this, but even though people meme about it, Net, he left the team some time ago officially, because he has a war in his country, unfortunately. So he's a bit preoccupied, so to speak. I wish him all the best, of course. I do, keep Sam in contact, and he's more like a person we as developers can go to when we need a specific backend. Help, so to speak. But other than that, he does not develop anymore for CM or SS13 as a whole, so to speak. So CAS update: when somebody makes a design doc and contributes towards it, then potentially. But if you're going to make the game revolve around, CAS, similar to how it revolved around tanks for a long while, probably not, because it is primarily an infantry versus Xenos combat game with roleplay as well. Just something to keep in mind. Will the XM42B be properly added to the spec loadouts, making it a more impactful and alternative to the M42A for the sniper spec? Tildar balance on that thing, because currently it's just straight up an upgrade in my opinion, which is kind of the issue. It's not really a sidestep at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
we've been testing it.
Yeah, it's been tested. It either needs to be brought back down, or we need to, buff the other sniper, or maybe an in between where we do a bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Super Cool guy. Ask the next question. Oh yeah, I missed this question here. Are there going to be updates with Almair, the empty spaces? Potentially. A lot of them that were added were meant to be there for the lifeboats, particularly for the fueling. We'll see about that. We might, slim in Almair a bit more once the lifeboats update comes in live. We'll see.
Or that might be something nice for a first-time mapper to look at. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to make a new ship.
Yeah, well, something to keep in mind, Almair does actually work out relatively well, even though it's big. It's very easy to get from, where you spawn to do your job.
Very good color coordination on the lines.
Yeah, that as well. An idea of when MPs will, if and or when MPs will get better tools to help with finding out who did what, and will parts of Marino be getting reworked? For Marino, I kind of only maintain it now. I'm not actively reworking it, so to speak. I know a lot of people have had interest into doing reworks, doing major changes to it, well, I'll be very blunt here. That change starts with you. Because when I did the original rework of the entire marine law, I was basically given, go ahead and try, and if you like it, we might approve it. And then I brought it, to the man in charge from marine law at the time, which was Grimcad. I did so. I reworked the entirety of it to what I considered to be a better aspect of what it was back in the good old days, so to speak. Where you could stack charges, they were a lot higher in timers and such. So if you do want to see any changes to marine law, I'd honestly say make a draft document of the current marine law, specify what changes you want to make, and not necessarily make a design doc for it, but make a Google Doc and outline, hey, I want this and this done instead. For the tooling itself, maybe it's a bit hard because the old fingerprints and fibers and stuff like that was handled by a part of the Atmos system, which was gutted to help with performance. Apparently, that was back before I was a developer, mind you. So yeah, prosthetics and how they work basically. Yeah.
Yeah, can I?
Sure.
Essentially, adding in prosthetics in a way that makes sense with the setting is dependent on a character creation overhaul that Jeeves and I are kicking around.
Yep.
And long and short, if we did it, it would be lower leg replacement, and only for officers and shipside.
Because TLDR, you lose a limb, you're in the Errands universe, the prosthetics that the Marines have access to aren't the best, so to speak.
Yeah, they're not electronic; they're mechanical and gyroscopic.
Yep.
It's like that Pistorius guy wore. And long and short is the Corps currently has is running out of officers.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to retain as many as they can, but for regular grunts, they're still not putting a guy with one leg on the front line. But yeah, as Top Hat said, that includes the positive and negative traits idea, where you have character creation points similar to Shadowrun.
Yeah, another thing, and for the current implementation of them, they are basically downgrades. Mind you, they're very hefty downgrades. Maybe you could tweak that a bit, but honestly, they're kind of like you lose a limb, etc. It's not meant as an upgrade, because you lost a limb, you straight up gained a worse replacement, just temporarily, technically. Will resources ever become useful again? Well, that fully depends on what you mean by useful. Do you mean making broken overpowered stims they can mass produce and give to the Marines so everybody can run around at Mach 10 and never be stunned? Then no, that's not going to happen again. If you mean by I don't think they're useful in their current capacity, then there was a resource design doc I believe I either approved recently. I believe it got approved recently on a design doc, so you can go check out if you want to make contributions towards it. So there you go. 3-Volt Empire when? Monkey, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, kinda. That's another real life taking hold for the past 2 weeks for Try and I. Friends has the uniforms. Try is working on the guns. I've been, watching from the closet. No, the pretty much we've got an ERT system in place for them where you can call in 5-man teams of Through World Empire Royal Marine Commandos. And so there will be 3 different teams: Point Man team, Breacher team, and some kind of marksman team. Where essentially they either get they get a different specialist for each one. So you either get a riot shield and submachine pistol, a 25 shell semi-auto shotgun or a DMR, and then there'd be a side team which is just an officer. So admins can spawn in, either just one team of guys or 2 teams and a handler, 3 teams and a handler. They are true neutral for their alignment on the, are they good for Marines or not? Essentially, Through World Empire and UA are in a lesser Cold War. Not as much as with the UPP, they're allied, but they hate each other's guts. And Through World Empire is essentially just the national political arm of Wayland-Yutani anyway. So they would be slightly less shady PMCs.
Yep.
But when they show up, assume friendly, because you're technically allies. But it would allow some good gameplay for admins.
Once they start shooting the CIC, that's usually a heads up that they're hostile.
But
yeah, they're ERT faction primarily. They'll potentially.
Yeah, we're not planning on making them an entire faction with vehicles and all that.
Yep. Any plans to expand ship-side roleplay with something akin to corporate espionage? Nothing to do with sabotage, but more clandestine. Well, that was basically what Agents was. Agents were severely restricted, and they unfortunately did not work out at all. Both partly due to the players themselves and due to their design implementation. So probably not, at least not in that current capacity.
On the dev capacity, yeah, I think I'll have some more to speak on that from the kind of event stuff and what we're doing on the admin stuff. But we can save that for the next 10 minutes or after we get through a couple more questions, I guess.
Yeah, I can slam out some more. So that was that. Can you make it so if you kill an MP with purely melee, it's perfectly allowed in the rules? No. Why do you have to kill somebody that's in the Marines at all, dude? Come on. Don't shoot your own teammates. Don't kill them. Focus on the job.
Yeah, our newest map is going to be a military prison where if you commit friendly fire, you spend the next round in.
Yeah. taken out in court. Yeah, let's continue down. Any plans for maturity to be re-added? No, not really. There's no at least current plans for it.
Maturity, my beloved.
Yeah, maturity, my beloved. Through the issue with maturity was you had a bunch of stages where young was basically useless, and you were basically deemed to AFK in the hive. If you went out in combat as a young anything, you will basically be shredded and die almost immediately. So that's about it. Has 95 created a trailer for a CM dev roadmap? Not really. As I explained earlier, we're kind of in the middle of recovering from a lot of the major changes that happened. Let's continue down. There's a long paragraph almost, but it boils down to Mickey Mouse, aka Disney, and prior to that, Fox shutting down CM for potentially accepting donations. Well, that is as it currently stands. Jamie is providing for the entirety of the monetary side, and he does not want donations, so that by itself, blocks that off. Secondly, is that it's also his entire decisions, even though we might say, oh, this falls under fair use, etc., right? It's he who has to potentially cover any legal costs if he does end up involved with such a thing. So in the end, it is the host of the server decision if they want to reopen or deny donations. And secondly, if donations were ever opened, how will we go about handling them, right? That will be an entirely different matter to discuss. So maybe it might be a bit paranoid on one hand, but on the other hand, it's not you who have to foot the legal bill. So, you as a person don't get to decide that, the host does.
Yeah, I think Jamie has said quite a few times he doesn't want the responsibility of having to, say what he
Manage
does with the
the
funds as well. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like,
So of course, potentially maybe who knows what happens in the future, but as it currently stands, no donation still.
Gibbs has a Patreon. He'd be happy to chill that.
Yeah, no, I will say this, as I said in the past, what people, do is on their own business, but I will never, and put it this way, if I find out that somebody's trying to pay me or other people to add in a change just because it was paid for, I'm outright going to deny it. That is the gist of it, because I don't want people to start.
I will immediately sell out. Pay me for all of your ideas.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'll pitch them as my own. Starting
How-
bids at $80.
How much I'm being asked? If you really want to go there, I think a low bid of $10,000 as a starting place could, be workable. Maybe we can work around that, but I didn't say that, so let's continue on down the road.
Whitelists and events are for sale, but you can't buy devs.
Yeah. Will a chaplain role ever be implemented? Chaplain themselves?
You
There
can,
are-
if you want to play
You wanna be
chaplain,
chaplain.
you can spawn in with
Yeah.
the rosary, play chaplain.
We've had a
Be a
we've had a
rifleman.
we've had discussions about this in ideas guys and stuff. My opinion is if it doesn't bring any unique role to the table, if it doesn't have unique mechanics, and if it's just something like you could do as a private or a colonial liaison, there is no reason to have a chaplain role because it's just bloat.
Admins have a single, it's from vanilla SS13, but they have a closet which is a one-click spawn, which has all the items that anyone could need. If you want to be a chaplain, roll empty and ask an admin for a spawn. I'm sure they'll spawn it for you.
I think we still have leftover code from Bay. We have 4 or 5 religious texts in there.
Yep.
You want a pocket Bible, Torah, Quran, whatever. We got a rosary. Just do an help, ask for it. You might get it, you might not.
Yep. For the war report, I was kind of added into it. The sign doc for it was approved, so it just DLR needs coding. I think that should be it. Will gas masks ever be useful again?
Yes.
Potentially.
I was actually talking to a contributor.
Given enough time, I'm gonna add CN-20 nerve gas. And if you're wearing it, you won't be friendly fired by it.
After my disastrous infection event a few days ago, I've been trying to see if it's possible to fix the kind of code infection. It's a bit of a mess, but a contributor offered to help, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, currently, something to just keep in mind for diseases and also, staff that are here and listening. Diseases infect on a if you're in view and in range basis. If somebody can see you and they are, deceased and they can see you and you're within the specified range, doesn't matter if you have glass between you. You can be seen and you're within range according to the game, you will be infected, even though you're in two entire separate rooms.
Even if you're wearing internals, it's great.
Yep. So that's something to keep in mind. That code is very largely unmaintained. So you venture into there at your own risk.
That code was written when we had Atmos.
Yeah. So 7 years plus old.
Yeah. The last changes that were made to that piece of code was probably disabling the part that based it on glass and stuff.
Yeah, it's to optimize the game as we go, so to speak. We have disabled a lot of old code and got a lot of old systems that the regular SS13 has to be able to handle, nearly 200 plus players on an average basis.
That's probably a good segue, I guess, Nanu, into the kind. I just might say.
Yeah,
I
sure.
know Luna has to go. But I think Scarlet, I think we had a couple of things that just to mention on the kind of admin front, because I know there's a couple of discussions in the staff team and I think up in heads of management about potentially either well, reducing the kind of list of staff roles in a way that makes it a little bit less, a giant mountain to climb for new players to kind of, I want to join staff because I want to run events and have some fun, but also moderate. So won't be touching on specifics, but it'll probably be either seeing the reduction of S mod or maybe just entirely removing it to admin. But that's in the works. I know, Jess, you had a few things on training.
Okay. Well, changing training was something that has been on the agenda for a long time, but I was really fortunate to have Dirk Kelly return, and he was the person who really spearheaded doing our current training program. So he's been kind of keeping the ball rolling, and we're working on giving training from trial moderator to mod, making sure that it covers everything that needs to be covered, working on doing mod to SMod. We're working on event training, which is something that I know a lot of people have wanted so that there's more fun and more consistency, not just on how to use the tools, but also on like storytelling and how to make sure that your event fits in lore. So hopefully that will be ready to roll out and send up to the heads for review very soon.
Hopefully, we're getting away from that model where you're basically just waiting to be promoted or run events, just waiting 6 months or something. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's not finalized, but hopefully we're going to have a system where our moderators are going to be able to do something other than just answer A-helps. There is already a change where moderators and SMods can do CL objectives via faxes. That was something that some nerd put in a couple of months ago, but I don't think was ever really publicly announced at its rollout. So there is more versatility.
Hopefully, those minor events are really what sells it. Luna, are you around to chat on the Discord stuff? I know you had a couple of things that you wanted to quickly bring up.
Nothing on my end, just eating a burrito.
Nice. I had a couple of things that I just wanted to quickly mention. First thing was MTs and other kind of shipside roleplay. The reason why all of that got cold was because you give everyone an inch and then it kind of turns into a mile when it goes to basically you let people, have fun one round and then, it repeats itself 10 times over a weekend and next thing you know, it's getting banned on the Monday. But speaking from my perspective, at least in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be trying to at least release some of the restrictions on MTs and what people can do, but also keeping it in a way where it is just one-off rounds and it is basically that kind of model of helping first and trying to see if you can get permission and giving that permission so that people can actually have some fun while also kind of keeping it so that it's not every round the MTs are kind of blowing up the brig, if that makes sense. So there will be some kind of limits to keep it so that it goes insane. I think that's everything on the admin front. Hopefully, back to questions from the chat, I guess.
True. Got to dig through them. So as you can see, continue down. Any plans for adding just reworking bear traps, making them available for Marines to use against tier 1s? There's no real plans again around bear traps currently. The traps, so to speak, you can find on the the colony are like the Yorkshire ones that you can deploy after a set amount of durations, and they basically functions at that. Mind you, you can get trapped yourself in them, so be careful. Will claimers be viable again? It depends. Cameras, the issue with cameras right now is that it's really unreliable. They used to stun, etc. with what they hit, but now they're a bit varied in how they behave. Item plans allow engineers to have 2 mini sentries through upgrade, considering how weak mini sentries currently are. Depends what you mean by 2 mini sentries. Do you mean just getting 2 straight up, or do you mean having like a combined thing? So maybe you can. Yeah.
He probably meant like when you click a normal sentry with a mini sentry upgrade, it spawns 2 mini sentries.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I made a nerf to mini sentries a while ago because they were extremely strong for damage. I still think they're probably pretty strong and are still an upgrade, so I probably wouldn't want them to get to. We can take another look at their damage, see if they're doing too much or too little, but right now, I'd still consider them really good because you can walk over them and they fire quickly, etc.
And they have IFF, which is like, wow.
Yeah.
Scary IFF. Let's continue down. Yeah. Let's see. Any plans to expand research and medical? What about finally giving medical personnel actual firearm training? So the reason why medical personnel are not given firearm training is because we don't want them to, engage in combat unless they're really forced to. That is not their role. That, mind you, that are doctors and nurses.
Stop
and
frontlining
CMO.
doctors with this one easy trick.
Literally, that as well. So that is why it's kind of like this passive thing to limit, the doctors and stuff from going out gun-ho and blasting.
Yeah, because even if we do give them those skills and make a rule saying you can't frontline as a doctor, then that's more rules that moderators have to enforce the entire time and more of a headache for everyone in general.
Mind you, it is already a rule. It's just that people,
it's already a rule.
People still do it, so we don't want to actively enforce that, so to speak.
We don't want to encourage it.
Encourage it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Med APC removal, not currently planned. I know there's some background talks about, with surgery and stuff like that, how it's going to be handled, and Med APC might see changes there as well. We'll see. Mind you, that will also tie into, the portable surgical beds and so forth. Any plans to remove the first queen's young timer to prevent survivors rushing on Shivas or reworking the items 1 point so the best items are not next to the most used hive location? Well, if survivors are rushing the hive at the round star, that depends on some aspects, but if they're trying to go and gun down the queen, I do know there's some semi-rules related to that, so I'll be careful with doing that. For the map on Shivas, the item loot, things can be moved around. That's not an issue. We could see about doing that if it's too close to the hives. And it plans to make dropship cameras indestructible until at least first launch. Some done having no view because the Ungus brought a welding tank on board. No. It's if you have to go repair them, and I'm fairly certain cameras can be repaired.
Yes, you can repair them by unscrewing the panel with a screwdriver, mending the wires with wire cutters, and then screwing it back together.
Well, there you go. So just go and repair them. If the Marines are being stupid, that's on them. Will the HPR ever be made full auto / giving a big burst? I hate giving myself carpal tunnel. Well, that ties into both that full auto is very expensive on the server. The second thing is, well, maybe big burst. That could be a potential way. Maybe. We'll see. HPR itself is kind of this weird spot because IFF is in one hand very strong, but on the other hand also not too strong. The issue is that with smart guns, you know about how many people can be in a location at one point with it. But when you add in HPRs, we get a squad together of 5-6 people, and they all carry HPRs, and they can just lock down an entire choke point against of the damage that goes through. So that might see some changes. We'll see.
I might take a look at porting TGMC's full auto backend in a few months, but most of it probably won't come to the in-game guns, and I don't know if it will actually work on CM, because we use a lot of different code from them.
Yep. So yeah, there you go. Been talking about making MPs look a lot more like normal Marines attire-wise. Or are we still gonna stick with the red and black uniforms? I don't think we are changing it. Monkey, do you have any thoughts on this? Oh, he might be still gone, that's why. But yeah, I'm not currently aware of us planning to change it. Maybe in the future, potentially. But currently, I think the black and red and black uniforms looks kind of stylish, not gonna lie. So I like them. I was gonna get more marine guns, like a marine carbine, etc. Well, what role is that gun gonna be filled? Let's continue on down. When is our getting ready? Already answered. What will it take for the round recorder to be activated? I haven't asked related to round recorder for some time now. I don't even think it's working or kept up to date, because that was an 8-byte project when he was still a developer way back when. So we will see.
I'm back.
Yeah, Monkey, welcome back. When can I get the ability to launch as a squad marine? No. Any hope of Marines seeing the ability to make earthworks? Oh, okay. Any hope of Marines seeing the ability to make earthworks? HESCO, trenches, foxholes, mortar pits. Related to that, I know there was some engineering stuff potentially, but kinda how HESCO is basically, barricades, right? In how we're currently handling it. We don't have like dedicated walls that are like made up of HESCO barriers, but that could be, if you got a sprite, then yeah, maybe that could be a cool thing to do.
I think Sammy might have sprited HESCO, and then when they went on their kind of FOB update, when they were doing the kind of little tents and stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there is a HESCO sprite out there somewhere.
HESCO doesn't exactly fit the setting anyway, though.
Yeah. Also, trenches would not work on all maps, because we have maps like Science Annex, which do not use like dirt or sand for their floor.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make a trench in a metal floor.
Oh man, then I'll be kind of scared about that. Like, goddamn.
Yeah.
Trench warfare. It's like in CM. What could go wrong there?
Yeah. So probably not mortar pits. I mean, you can just make your own. You can just put down a mortar and make some cages around it. That's basically a mortar pit.
Sandbags, even.
Yeah, sandbags even. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, use sandbags to creatively decorate instead of.
Any hope of seeing Python engineering reworks as something to do? Do you mean that's okay? Your question is a bit all over the place. But if your question is like, oh, I don't agree, you don't mean to say that they have nothing to do? A bit hard to understand that question. Should word it better next time. Dropship rework, that's kind of like a meme, I'll be honest. As I said, Net is no longer part of the SS13 community as a whole, and he hasn't worked on that in literally 1+ year, if not 2 years. So, has been dead for a while. Except besides like contributions and contributors working on it, I don't think there's any dev working on the dropship right now. I know, however, that Jesser played around with changing how they look. That's about it. Let's continue down. More seats for the dropships. Maybe in the future we'll see. We'll have to like change the size of them straight up, probably. Are we going to address the persistent sub 1 hour rounds? Well, that fully depends on when you're playing. We have had really long rounds on occasion recently, and really short ones on occasion recently. It depends on both player count and how many people are playing. We can of course help encourage certain game times with balance and stuff like that. But in the end, if it's low pop and nobody's playing Xeno that round, there's like 10 pool Lara then the game has kind of been decided already. You should play both sides. That's what I'm saying. Let's read a comment. Let's continue down real quick. Where was I?
Maybe we should open up the floor.
Yeah, we could open up the show.
If
We can
anyone-
continue with more questions at the end, anyone. It's just going to be tomorrow for me and today for the NA people at the evening.
If
So
you would like to post a question in kind of voice chat, now's your chance to kind of stick your hand up and ask.
Yeah.
If you can, yeah.
Mind you, if you already asked a question that I already answered, then that's kind of like, are you going to get the same answer? But if you have like your rule questions, then yeah, you should also ask them because we have the mod manager here and we have Frozen here.
Anyone gonna put their hands up?
Any hands in yours? Let's see.
No hands up yet.
Nobody. No hands up yet. Ooh, scary.
Look at
Damn.
that loser putting their hand up.
Damn,
Like the
okay.
teacher's like, we put a hand up or I pick someone from the audience.
True, I pick someone from the audience.
When is Corset going to be returned?
Of course, it needs a major rework, but I
Yeah,
do
major.
know. I believe there was a contributor that's actually working on it recently that gutted. Semi-recently, mind you, gutted a large portion of it. But I'll be honest, it does need a bit of gutting. It's too large, when it was added, and it's with the non-working Nightmare insert it used to have. A lot of the domes were just straight up inaccessible. And the second thing was, how the train ride, I forget, the monorail, that's the one. How it worked also, it didn't really do anything. It just moved somebody between LZ1 and LZ2. But if you're landing LZ1, why do you want to go to LZ2 when both LZs was at the equal distance away from the one and only hive spot?
Yeah, there's easily a list of 100 things to do to fix Corsat.
Yeah, I believe I had a list out somewhere. I either posted it in one of the dev channels or in this, the internal dev channels about what needs to change on Corsat if somebody wants to bring it back. And I do know that somebody was looking to do that.
Remapping it from the ground up.
I know, I know I saw him move large parts of it around to redefine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's
Yeah.
remapping it for better flow so that more of the map gets used.
Yeah. So potentially soon.
How would you guys feel about adding a ability for the bayonet to charge much like the old Crusher could with range-based damage?
As fun as that will be a
Right
bit
after
work
I
here.
make acid blood melt your face.
Yeah.
And
So,
I also know there's been a lot of talk of perhaps to help the smart gun be more of a backline role, giving it reverse fall off.
potentially.
Work.
It's I heard the idea around, but we'll see, because it's kind of like it goes against the logic of a gun, right? That it loses damage the more up close and personal you are, right? And normally, it's a straight up opposite. So I've heard that idea been linked to that before. It has some issues with it, unfortunately, but maybe we'll see. Yeah. Anything else you want to ask?
I guess the only other thing, but I suppose it was already answered a little bit, was the will we be seeing anything for MTs to do, and any hopes of CAS and pilots having more to do, because currently transport pilots, while they are definitely useful, don't really do much, and crew chiefs kind of just run off and do whatever they want most of the time.
Okay, well, we don't really have anybody actively working on CAS because it's not seen as a major part. It's there. It's a fire support tool you use. I'd say CAS, might be. I wouldn't call it hard, but if you don't know how coordinates work, aka mathematics, it might be a bit challenging for the more average player to figure out how gimbals and all of that work out. So maybe we'll look into making that a bit more easy.
I've seen ideas floating around of like how to make the Fulton more useful in the current day. So that might be something transport pilots could get back onto.
Yeah, something. Could also look into, that's just me spitballing, but maybe for like the average person, maybe we'll add in some like 2 predefined, CAS strikes, not just like ratios, so to speak, like attack lines. Like one is just direct east, one is just direct west, and then players can base off of that.
I suppose more I was thinking in the sense of CAS perhaps wanting a rework or something, considering that transport pilot, it's no one really wants to do that, and everyone rushes for the CAS slots.
I mean, maybe. This is something Net spoke about. He's no longer with the SS13 community. But a long time ago, it's like 2 years ago, he spoke about doing like major, or like rework. That's where the ideas and stuff came from, where like the event CAS rework memes come from. And I know he played around with the idea of a dropship called hover over an area. So if it hovers over an area, CMs could both hear it and see either like a shadow or a silhouette of it, so to speak. And it will kind of like show the area the dropship could then, engage, so to speak. Similar to if you ever played with during tech clubs with how the railgun cannons functioned. Something similar. That's the only thing I can come up with there, unfortunately. But yeah, thank you for joining us up on the stage and asking your questions. That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Anybody else wanna come up, show their hand? Perhaps speak a bit? If not, we've gone for about 1 hour and 20 minutes, so could be a good time to end it there, Frozen.
Yeah, we've got to hold your kind of questions, because I'm sure we'll have a couple of repeats in the second half later today or tomorrow for I think you guys. But yeah, if there's no one else, I guess. There's a hand up.
Hello.
Hey man.
Alright, I just have one quick question, and are we gonna address a bunch of the empty rooms in the Alamare Lake? I'd say a good 40% of the ship is hardly ever used, and as for parts of the ship, like the I.O. room, is severely unused, and it's just empty space. Like, what are you gonna do about that? Is there something you have planned for those empty rooms, or are you just gonna leave them, or are you gonna shrink the ship?
Sinking the ship will be funny, albeit, but no. I do know that the I rooms might, see use soon. With the limited DEFCON re-addition that a couple contributors might be making. So those areas with the computer room and near ours, etc., might see use again. Mind you, the ours room itself does actually see use, albeit more in like this RP sense of fashion. What I consider like more like a major. It soaks up a lot of space and it's not really used except like trial instances through are the areas that were added during the lifeboat rework for that, the mapping for that, where the lifeboat pumps that were supposed to be added on upper deck, port and starboard side, fore and aft. Those might be taken care of and basically be gutted and or made into smaller maintenance areas. So yeah, did that answer your question? Any follow-up questions to that?
are you ever going to bring back tech webs or anything like it? Because I feel like things like that.
Hello, this whole year. Can I ask the question or?
Oh, 1 second, Javier.
Oh, okay. So, any plan of giving us
Please continue,
another weapon
Fireshot.
mechanic or a weapon that has more inputs other than clicking?
Alright. I believe I heard this question though, which was if, tech hubs, etc. is making a
Since you're
return.
gonna remove
We do want
double-
to add in something similar to tech hubs in the far off future, but it needs to be properly designed. It needs to work better, so to speak. It needs a major overhaul, and it will probably come in under an entirely new name, etc. But maybe, some kind of progression through the round will be cool to have, and I know that people have been requesting it, but it needs to be given another thought to, so to speak. It needs to be given another. It needs a design document, to put it bluntly. Then potentially we can look into giving both Marines and Xenos alike their own style set, and where one side does not get
mechanics
left
than
out.
marine other than clicking. They had
Yeah.
special moves. You're gonna
Alright, thank you so
remove
much for your question, Fireshot.
probably you're gonna remove double shotgun. It's a reality.
I'll move you back
You
to the
guys
audience.
gonna remove it.
I'll unmute Javier
Yes.
here.
Yes, you're gonna remove it. And you're gonna remove the weapon with most inputs in the game. So I really need another weapon that has more inputs than clicking. Clicking is boring.
Which weapon are you talking about now?
He's saying double shotguns.
Double shotgun gonna get removed.
Potentially.
Potentially, yes, because we are a minority that use that.
If you
So-
want a harder to use a weapon, potentially. Maybe in the future. But if double shotguns.
Potentially because we're a minority that use that weapon. But
Yeah.
But what I'm saying it's any play of giving more mechanics to the weapons other than click. It's boring, at least for me.
True. Maybe we should add in a weapon gun jamming. Very immersive. Your weapon, every time you fire it, has a 2% chance to jam.
Yeah,
You
so
will have to.
You get to decide how many rounds you load into the pulse rifle mags. If
Yeah.
you load 99, it has jamming problems, so you have to underload to 95.
True. You gotta make it.
I'm pro
Immersive.
weapon jamming.
Yeah, the weapon jamming. Yeah,
You've convinced me, Nanu. Let's do it.
Might be something to look at.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, but jokes aside, I think maybe the R480, the rat, meant gets reskin, so to speak, in its entirety might be something you could look
I'll
into.
fight you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it has the unique mechanic of if you directly hit a shot, it will buff your next shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds pretty nice.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on the stage, Javier.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Yeah, take care, man. Alright, let's grab the last person for today, Frozen. Like for this one.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, okay, there he is. Okay, I thought he was
Hello,
denied.
This is giving me major anxiety, but what I can do. So I have spoken to some people on the Discord recently and have seen some suggestions roaming around the ship and how it lacks any operation on itself. It does not seem to work. It just seems like full static. And there were some ideas roaming around of adding functionality to weapons, adding some movement to it. So one person suggested, I think it was a CEO at least, that suggested something like adding an option for the ship to move to low orbit so it can shoot the railguns or have faster drop ship time or things like that. Is that possible, Annie? Is that interesting even? I just find it interesting. Oh, hello. 1 second.
Okay.
It's a feature they have on TGMC. I mean, It would need a design document. It would need a proper place. We're not closed to having it, I guess, but it needs to go through the same process every other feature does.
You're speaking a bit fast, but if I caught it correctly, you want the chip side, how it behaved, to impact plan side, correct?
Yeah, he wanted
It's
to be
just
able.
not some functionality at all in the whole for the ship, because it feels kind of too automatic. You cannot interact with the ship systems directly. You generally ask Ares to do something to I don't know, fire a missile as roleplay or something like that. That could be added as some type of mechanic that could have some effect, even if limited. You see? I know it's hard. I know it's a mechanic that's way too far-fetched right now, but I want to let this out there at least. You see?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, giving ships some kind of impact on the plan side combat, by essence, not necessarily opposed to, but this implementation can be quite hard to achieve, like in a balanced manner, right? But overall, yeah, that's cool. All right, thank you for joining us.
My gratitude. Bye-bye.
Take care, man.
Alright.
All right.
I think we can probably end it there.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Bang on
How
2:30
about that
for me.
new Soto?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, learn to code.
We will be returning, guys, for the NA Townhall that is today, for the NA people, tomorrow at 3 a.m. for me. That's going to be enjoyable.
Is that 7 hours time, I think, by my count?
About then, yeah.
7.5, yeah. But thank you all very much for coming and lending your questions. Always good fun.
Yeah, it was good. I think we had a total of upwards of between 60 and 70 people who joined at one point. That's nice.
Yeah.
So hell yeah.
Everyone's dropped down already to watch the mapping live with Spartan Bobby.
Yeah, so of course when people tend to do this, you can drop down to the general channel now. So we'll just be
It looks like
closing
he's
it
playing
up.
Tarkov.
Playing Tarkov.